dipped, but just the general fund budget dipped there. So at the end of 2025, your unassigned fund balance was about 59% of your 2026 budget. Here, taking a quick look at your budget to actual results for the general fund in 2025. So on the left here, you're going to see your final budget. In the middle, you're going to see the actual results. And on the right, you're going to see the variance with that final budget. So overall, your revenues were over budget and expenditures were also over budget. Really, the main reason for this was due to the flood that occurred a couple years ago. The city got some federal funding, so some revenue to pay for some flood repairs. So you had more expenses and revenues due to that situation. Another thing I'll point out is that the general fund also transferred out 111,000 to the capital improvement project or capital improvement fund. So overall, your general fund balance just decreased a little bit, about $11,000 this past year. And that $2 million amount, that 2.164 million, that's your year-end general fund balance. Here, just looking at your general fund revenues by type over the last 3 years. So your property tax levy, intergovernmental revenues, so like grant revenues, charges for services, then other is stuff like investment earnings and reimbursements and kind of those miscellaneous revenues. So your revenues have been pretty steadily increasing in all these categories, which is a similar trend to this next slide here, where we're just looking at your general fund expenditures by type. So kind of your general fund by department, general government, public safety, public works, capital outlay, transfers out, and other expenses. Again, most things are trending up. The capital outlay large increase this past year was due to the flood expenses that I mentioned on the previous slide. Now moving on to some other governmental funds. Here we're looking at your special revenue funds. So here what you see is just all your special revenue funds listed, the fund balances between 2025 and 2024, and that overall increase. So last year, your special revenue fund balances increased by about 300,000, which was driven by the Port Authority Fund. Same slide here, but now just looking at your capital project funds. So all your capital project funds listed out, your fund balances for 2025 and 2024, and then the change there. Pretty large increase in the capital project funds. Main reason would be if in the 2025 street project fund, you issued some debt and those bond proceeds haven't all been spent at year-end 2025. And then the other one is the Allegheny Apartments Fund. The city received a Minnesota Housing Deferred Loan Program. They received some funding from that program. So those funds are essentially going to be passed through to the developer for Allegheny Apartments. But at year end, they were on the city's books as cash because all those funds haven't been moved yet. Debt service funds. So currently the city has 3 debt service funds with a new one this past year with that 2025 GO bond. So this slide just shows the cash and assets in each fund, as well as the total debt outstanding for the governmental portions. And then this bottom half of the slide just shows your next following 10 years debt service obligation. Now looking at your enterprise funds. Here, what we're looking at is your operating activity over the last 4 years on the top. And on the bottom here, we're showing your cash balances over the last 4 years. This black line here is the minimum target balance, which is kind of like an operating target. It's the following year's debt service plus 50% of your operating costs. So basically, the water fund is meeting and exceeding that target balance. Another thing to keep in mind with the water fund, though, is the need for future capital projects. Because the water fund will probably need to pay for some of those kind of things. Main reason the cash balance went up in the water fund, and you're going to see the same thing in the sewer fund, is with those 2025 bonds that were issued, the water and sewer fund did receive some of those proceeds, and not all of them have been spent this year. So kind of those bond proceeds are the main reason for the cash increase. And you're going to see that same cash increase in the sewer fund as well, and then also the operating activity over the last 4 years on the top. Now here we're just taking a quick look at the city's total cash and investments over the last 3 years. This at year in 2025, your cash balance is about 8.1 million. So pretty large jump from last year due to some of the things I've been mentioning, the unspent bond proceeds, as well as the Minnesota housing loan funds. And now here, what we're going to look at is the key performance indicators. So kind of comparing the city of Wabasha with class 4 cities, which is cities statewide with a population of 10,000 or less, and also cities in Wabasha County. So here we're looking at the tax rate and as well as taxes per capita, Wabasha being the black line, and then those peer groups being the orange and yellow bars. So we've talked about this kind of in the past with some of these metrics. Wabasha does typically have higher tax rate, higher taxes per capita. Your population's on the smaller end of that 10,000 population metric for class 4 cities. And also, I just think as a city, there's a lot going on in Wabasha. You're going to see, other things like typically more expenses per capita and all that kind of stuff as well. So like here, we're looking at your debt per capita. This kind of shows that you have a higher debt per capita than those class 4 cities and cities in Wabasha County. And of course, this number has been increasing the last few years with the 2025 bond, as well as the debt related to the 2023 street project as well. And then this graph just kind of shows your debt service expenses as a percent of total expenditures actually being pretty comparable and even less so than peer groups. And then my last slide here, this is your current expenses and capital expenses per capita. So your current expenses per capita, Wabasha has this black bar in each of these, by the way. Your current expenses per capita basically being your operating day-to-day costs, things like payroll and services, things like that. Whereas capital expenditures is like your big ticket projects and capital equipment purchases and things like that. So obviously some volatility with capital expenditures because it depends on how busy of a project year you have for that number. And that's my last slide. So I'll let you guys ask any questions on the audit.
Thank you, Tyler. Questions for Tyler? Tyler, do you know what percentage of class 4 cities are actually under 5,000 or under 3, something closer to us?
I don't know that percent. No, not off the top of my head.
Well, we appreciate your time in the audit. Anybody have any comments?
And just to say that, Tyler and Jessica, they work long hours, especially Tyler, to get everything that's needed for the audit. And then Tyler and I have been doing just debriefs every year with Tyler C, so we can keep doing as much upfront work as possible. And I'm excited about our clean audits on all the federal money we're handling, because that's pretty important, and they really dig into it. They dig up all the bids, look at all the paperwork, and Bolton and Make is a big part of making sure we're correctly bidding and procuring everything. And so, and then with the finding that we have a very good understanding, Tyler and I, where process wise things got missed, and it was just on a pretty large contractor payment that I was involved in, and it was just the services were in December, we paid the bill in January, February, people were out of office, and it just got missed being marked in the correct year. So it wasn't that we lost track of the funds, we just marked it in the wrong year. So we're gonna just continue to be vigilant about that. It was interesting, we harped on all of our staff to get it right, and then I actually was part of the person who just missed it. So it's always good, and I feel like I'm watching our reserves, because we do have a lot of projects, and it's important that we keep a lot in reserve so that we can cash flow these big projects, and I think we're in a good position for all that too. So thank you, Tyler and Tyler, they're a fantastic team, and Jessica too, who is very instrumental year round and making sure we do well. So yeah,
Very much appreciate it. And Tyler usually reaches out to me, just there was Robbie, I always heard from Abdo during the process of the audit. If I have any concerns, if you ever have any concerns you want to pass on to me, you can contact them directly. They'd be happy to hear from any else. All right. And we need an approval of the Wabasha financial audit.
Second.
Of course, thank you. First by Tim, second by Brian. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. You wanna do roll?
Aye.
Yes, thank you. I forgot. I was waiting for their aye, but we have to do roll.
Oh, yeah, okay. Woodley? Aye. Waller? Yes. Jensen?
Yes.
Moyer?
Yes.
Friedmeier? Yes. Sella?
Yes.
Duran?
Yes, thank you, Tyler. And thank you, Tyler C. Take care.
Thanks for having me. Have a great meeting.
You too. All right, now we'll receive public comment. If you haven't been to a Wabasha City Council meeting before, we welcome public comment at the beginning of the meeting. You can share your comments with council. It doesn't have to be on the agenda, and feel free to state your name and place of residence for the record, and just share your thoughts with us.
Good evening. I appreciate the chance to come before you tonight. My name is Alex Ball. I'm from Rochester, Minnesota. That's my personal address. I'm here tonight. The company I work for is All Craft Exteriors, and we're based in Rochester, but many of our employees live and work here in Wabasha County. And so this community actually means a great deal to us, and we try to be fairly active here. I'm here tonight to speak about your chapter 116 rule. That's the city's peddler and solicitor's ordinance. Part of what our company does is storm damage restoration. It's a very competitive industry, and frankly, it doesn't always have the best reputation. At the same time, door-to-door outreach is one of the main ways that homeowners learn that they might have damage to their homes. Damage that, if it's left unaddressed, would lead to much bigger problems. But we understand exactly why the city has regulations about door knocking, because without them, it becomes very disruptive for residents and it opens the door for bad actors. And we want to operate within those rules, of course, but that only works if the system is consistent and timely. Last year, we went through the proper registration process. We were waiting for permits while other companies were actively knocking doors without authorization. And that puts companies that are trying to do things right actually at a disadvantage. So tonight, I'd like you to consider two things. First, we very much support you having these rules, but if you're gonna have them, we'd ask that they be enforced consistently. Companies that follow the process shouldn't be competing against those who ignore it. And second, we would ask you to look at ways to streamline your registration process, especially after major storm events, and consider longer-term permits for established local companies rather than requiring frequent renewals. After the April 13th hailstorm, for example, we were told there would be a delay of several weeks before we would be able to even get permits to talk to people. And then timing matters a lot. Homeowners have limited windows to file insurance claims that gets tighter every year. And so delays can seriously affect their ability to act. So our goal and request is a fair system that protects residents and doesn't reward companies that ignore your law at the expense of those who are trying to follow it. I thank you, councilors and mayor, very much for your time tonight.
And we thank you for yours. And if you don't have to say it on the record, but if you'd like to share with us other model ordinance language that you, in communities where you feel it's working, we're always open to that.
There are other communities where, it'd be easy to say in some ways that there are communities where it's not working. And I totally understand why. The laws are written to protect homeowners, and that's exactly how states should do from lack of solicitation. I'm just asking for, there are plenty of places that have no ordinances, and frankly, I wouldn't want to live there either. We're just asking for something that's a little bit more, if you're gonna have it, and if you could enforce it more vigorously. I know there are more important things, but still, it really does put us at a business disadvantage, or it encourages people that otherwise would obey the rules to try to break them simply because the competition is not leaving them a lot of choice. So.
But we'll take it,
Well,
thank you. And that eye that you were waiting on for weeks, of course, this group that does this
Yeah.
as a part of our regular business.
Right, yeah, no.
Staff had flagged this, Jessica flagged this for me probably a couple of years ago, so I have asked Christie, we have Christie for 10 hours a week. And that's all we budgeted for, so I've asked Christie, as time allows, to look up some model ordinances and provide us with some recommendations, because Jessica shared, something that streamlines it, but also, yeah, I think enforcement is actually, how are we gonna enforce it?
Currently, if we get a call, we get a lot of complaints from residents that do not want anyone at their door, a lot. And then we usually call the PD and say, hey, this is the company that they're seeing in this area, and we send an officer. We don't have, that has to be enforced through his end, we let them know.
Can you share, Joe, how we're doing then once, are you catching people or, or,
Yeah, I mean, they're usually through the day, so they're kind of in contact with you guys, hey, do these guys have a permit, and if not, we're moving them along, so.
Or they tell them to come in and get a permit.
Or better,
But I can see why the delay for council to approve is something that we might wanna take a look at. But it also they have to go through a background check, so
Right.
yeah,
council approval,
but yeah, there is.
Well, thank you, it's definitely something that's, because we've had two big hail events, and I'm sure lots of people have needed your services, thank you. Yeah. Any other public comment from anyone here in council chambers? And I didn't see if there was anybody else online besides Jean and, thank you. Jean and, Dean.
there are people online.
There are.
We're gonna have a new process for this, because
Yes,
they
I'll
have
just do the
to
regular
put it in
in,
the chat.
in this instance, I'll do it the way
Okay.
I've always done it. If you're online and you've never made public comment, we welcome you to do that. Please just unmute yourself. State your name and residence for the record, and feel free to share a couple minutes with council. If you can limit your comments to about 2 minutes, that allows everybody to get a chance to speak. Any public comment? Okay, not hearing anybody? All right, we'll move on to changes or additions to the agenda. Any from staff or members of council? Hearing none. I did not create a presentation because it's a beautiful night and we don't need to keep you here any longer, but it's really noticeable how all the public works improvements are showing the effort of getting ready for spring is really showing. It looks beautiful, and it's nice to see the senior banners going up, and it's been a wonderful, slow spring, which I appreciate. Committee reports from utilities.
We just paid bills, so
Okay.
nothing.
And from Port Authority.
Port Authority, we paid a lot of bills. We certainly did. We, one of the things we worked on and discussed was, working on, some grant applications for developing a master plan for the, Apple Athletic Field, Highway 60 route. So that's gonna move forward with staff, our current staff, taking care of that, Caroline and Chris Gassner. Another, a residential infill grant was awarded, so it's the second one already. We still have some funds available from others if anybody's out there considering that. Couple of additional meetings this week, there's a workshop and a special meeting tomorrow for the Port Authority during the day. Respect of some other residential work that's being done. Oh, Caroline, I forgot it now, St. Peter?
Yeah, for anybody who wants to come, there's gonna be a Zoom link, and it was a previously scheduled watch meeting. And only Caroline and I could be there, maybe Caroline and Kathy and I could be there, but it was a tough week for meeting month for others. But it was the city administrator from St. Peter, they've done every type of housing in St. Peter, all the way from student to senior. And he was so enthusiastic, he's been the administrator for 35 years, and he's still really realizes you just constantly have to be working on housing. And so he was so great, we were like, well, we don't wanna be the only people to hear from you, let's do this another time. So it's a joint port watch meeting, but there's a Zoom link if anybody wants to participate in any part of it.
And then the second meeting is with respect, there is a special meeting for Port Authority tomorrow. And that is with respect to, on the consent agenda, we have the approval of the barge terminal bid. Needs to go through this body and then find ultimately to the port. That's it.
Funny parks and streets.
I was on last month, but the park board did meet and they had a request from Rotary to fundraise and put some musical instruments in Beach Park. And I think that's gonna come back for more discussion. but
Yeah, I
we're-
sent her our comments, which was, comments, and maybe a suggestion of a different location,
Yeah,
so.
campground is there, you know, we don't know how loud the instruments are, but it's stuff kids can bang on, and I don't know if that. Right next to the campground, if that'll work too well, but. A Veterans Park statue, that was donated by Jim Mathias and his family, which was a nice addition to there to fill in the other spot. And then we might create a couple more spots if more come in, so that's good. We talked about Veterans Park pavers, so people can buy pavers and the money would come to the city and go in a fund and it's kind of gaining traction. They wanted to wait until this next month to revisit that. I just want to make sure that it's maintenance free and we're not down there, you know, taking pavers out, getting them engraved, and then just as long as they're a group that's gonna take care of that. And then Jason's Toilets is donating a porta potty for the Eagle Basin Park this year, so it's $150 a month times by 6 months. So I'm gonna work on, get the donation form to him and see if he wants to fill that out. Street commission did not meet. The only thing I wanted to add is I emailed out the cost for the Bard Owl study survey, and that was about additional $10,000 that pretty quick came in. And I don't know if there's things down the road that we can do to try and vet that a little bit better, because we could be getting multiple requests, and what are we gonna do? So, I don't know, I just wanted to mention this.
There was a cost involved in doing it.
What's this for?
Absolutely.
What was this for?
The Bard Owl,
They did a nest survey around the.
Oh, first part, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. Yep.
other than that, it's on the consent agenda, but I have Eric Wagner here, hopefully a new public works employee, so, see if he'll approve it or not, yep. Not yet.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks.
We reviewed and approved the floodplain ordinance, which I believe was on 10-1, and then we approved an IUP for Bill of the Old Athletic.
Very good. All right. Administrator report, we've got that in writing, but any highlights for?
Yeah, Tony covered concern the bird and all of that. Another thing we've gotten a lot of emails and phone calls on is the state of the Wabasha baseball outfields. We're gonna meet on site with the contractor and, Bolton and May. And, at this point, unfortunately, we don't know if they're gonna be ready in time for the baseball season, and we're all very disappointed and disappointed that the fields aren't working 2 years later, but, as I stated in the statement, basically, we regraded to last fall to make sure to address the grading issues, and now the grass had to go away, and we added some sand, and now the grass isn't growing, so, we will just be clarifying once it's hydro seeded, who's taking care of the watering, hopefully the contractor. But yeah, definitely heard a lot of feedback. So if council has questions on how staff is handling that, that would be the time to speak now. And then just kudos again to Emily for testifying for our Highway 60 project. We should know by next month, hopefully, if we did get additional funding there. And we had 10 applications for the library director, and me and Wendy are gonna be interviewing for that job. And on the ambulance, we understand that Greenfield Township is moving forward with a special assessment, and Kellogg has not decided how they're gonna move forward. We looked into the cost of forming a joint powers board, and that was quite a hefty cost, so I plan to attend the next Kellogg meeting. And you know, I guess if we wanna, I think Brian suggested this is probably good, if this doesn't work out, which is compliance. And we wanna move forward with the joint powers board, that's gonna be a big project in 2027 that might take up some time, so we should decide on that in the 2026 budget process, but. I mean, if everyone can just do the right thing, that's by far the simplest and cheapest way to go, but. Yeah, so.
And just to be clear, if you didn't read every word of the outcome of the nest survey, there were no nests identified in the project area, so if people ask you. I thought the paper unfortunately kind of posed questions to the universe, they actually could have posed to the city, and I let Judy know that when there's something like this that citizens are concerned about, and it's a city project, please ask us, because we oftentimes have answers. And we're prepared that we, would really want people to have the information if we have it. We'll see if she does follow. All right. right, and then we have a couple other committee reports, our ad hoc personnel committee on ambulance staffing.
Brian, do you wanna talk about that and just general ambulance update? So I think we missed
I
Ryan.
missed you, Ryan.
Yeah.
I was just singing your praises today, and then I went right past you.
So we looked over, well, for the 2026 budget, we, put in for our 4896 schedule, for our full-time staff. And so when we looked at the budget for through the first half, or the first 33% of the year, our full-time budget is on pace at 33%. Our part-time budget is at 43%. But if we dug down and looked at the volunteers, it's not from part-time employees, it's from our volunteers. We have a couple that are very aggressive in wanting to take transfers. So that helps us on the transfer end, but there's an additional cost to pay them a little bit more. And then our overall payroll budget through April is at 36%, so just 3% over where we're sit. The budget or the schedule itself has helped us retain employees. It's helped cover our schedule better. It's helped us take more transfers. Through the end of April, we've taken 20 more transfers this year than we did through April of last year. And then we're on pace. Right now, I haven't got the final numbers from April, but with what I had at the time of that meeting, we're on pace to go over $600,000 for revenue this year. So that's
We budgeted 475.
correct. So, the schedule helps, like I said, helps retain our employees, our full-time employees. Like the schedule, it helps provide better coverage, so we're not constantly looking to fill our schedule. And then it's also helping on our transfers that we're taking, which has been helping on our revenue. And then through the end of April, we are 23 calls over where we were through April of last year. We've taken 55% of our transfers this year. We were at 43% last year through the end of April. Like I said, we took 20 more through the end of April than we did last year. We're at 306 calls for the year. And that's what I got. Any questions?
Questions for Ryan?
Well,
I was just talking about the strength of the department today. The person running for the District 20A House seat in Minnesota is an EMS Goodhue County manager, and so she asked a lot of the questions about ambulance and fire, and I said those are big issues for us, and we would love her to, ask anything she can of us to learn about what our community's needs are. I'm here to you. Or any of us. I don't know, we were lucky to have a lot of experience and ambulance experience within council too. Super, thanks Ryan.
John, could you help me with the CIP ad hoc committee report? Just a quick summary of what we've been up to.
so we have been in discussion with, the fire department and,
Ambulance, public works.
ambulance, and we are gonna be meeting with police next week. My apologies for this week. What we're trying to do is just review the, capital improvement plan in advance of the budget and looking at how we can most effectively take care of the departments, but not really overburden the CIP. We're at kind of a low spot right now, and there's a lot of demand on it, so we're looking at other ways to help maybe support some of these asks. Maybe looking at used equipment, leased equipment, long-term plans. Ryan's got a couple of long-term plans for the ambulance, the trucks themselves. So those are the kinds of things we've been looking at. I think the reality is that, the CIP, if we wanted to fund it as we've kind of thought we would like to by department, then we're looking at increasing that contribution greatly on an annual basis. And unfortunately, that contribution comes from property taxes. So we're doing the best we can to try to figure out how to balance those out, maybe move some projects out, or like I said, other alternatives to maybe that first ask.
And in doing different scenarios, I realize grants can make a huge difference, so. With Tyler and Tony's help, we just submitted a grant for a $50,000 grant towards Tony's purchase of the snow equipment. We already, procured the truck chassis, but then this would cover the snow equipment. We'll know by this fall, which is when. Tony, just don't order that equipment until I tell you if we got it, but we're gonna be competing unfortunately. On a national stage, whereas before it would just get approved in the state of Minnesota, now it's going into a national pool, but. I think we've operated, if we don't ask, we don't know if we received, and yeah, just one $50,000 grant could be the difference of doing a project in 2027 or 2028, so. I'll keep you posted, and it's been a good process, and I think we didn't really have to dig into it too much before, and now it's helping us all get educated.
I'll say this about the department heads too, they're very informed and they really know what they've got and they know what their needs are. And they come with good background, so their asks aren't crazy. I mean, we just gotta figure out how to balance it all.
Very good. All right, on the consent agenda, we have approval of the April 7th, 2026 regular minutes, purchase of 2 new portable radios through the REP funds, which are 100% covered. Purchase of new Navy statue, which was referenced in Park Board update representation from Jim Bias and family. League of Minnesota Cities liability coverage waiver form, which usually urges us to not waive. Peddler solicitors permits for the roofers that were here, as well as a few others, pre-award modeling, all craft, Prairie Construction Services, Mid City Construction Results Contracting. Everybody out of Rochester except one's on Upward. Approval of full-time public works tech, who's here with us tonight here. And gambling liquor license applications from County Fair Chamber, St. Felix American Legion, and the American Legion Auxiliary, excuse me. And May warrants, and as well the approval of the Wabasha barge terminal bid from Lunda Construction. Just one comment before we have a motion. I would move to include changes, some very small changes to one page of the minutes. There were 2 typos, and then there's one word that I didn't meet the spirit of the discussion. Says the consensus of council members was to go with the black fixtures and try to match the agenda, the minutes say downtown lighting standards as closely as possible. We did not want historic lighting through this district, so I corrected it to say the city's lighting standards, because the city has a lighting standard related to those big tall cobras. So if anybody would like to entertain a motion with those changes to the minutes. Thank you, Jeff. We have a second.
I'll second.
With a second from Tim. Further discussion? I'll have Tyler call for a roll vote.
Woodley? Yes. Jensen?
Yes.
Moyer?
Yes.
Waller?
Yes.
Sella?
Yes.
Freemeyer?
Yes.
Durant?
Yes. Okay, all right, so on to regular business. We've got before us the first read of our floodplain ordinance. This has been in the works for some time. Is Christie on with us? Okay. Hi, Christie. We're ready for you, Christie.
Oh, great. Thanks. Can you guys hear me?
Very well, yes, thanks. How are you?
Awesome. Okay, good.
One
Good.
request,
So,
if you can reference anything in a document, can you share your screen, because then they can see it on the TV?
sure. Let me get this shared. Can you guys see the screen now?
It's coming. Yes, we can.
Yay. Technology. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
At first, it sure is.
Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to briefly go through this. We kind of just have one real issue that we need response from, but I'll kind of go through the whole thing, because the floodplain ordinance has been with us for those of us at City Hall for a really, really long time. But first off, I just wanted to just talk to you quickly about just the adoption process. We've got our first read tonight here at May 5th. We'll have potentially the second read on June 2nd. We'll get that in the paper as shortly after that meeting as we can, and hopefully we'll get that adoption by June 26th. That's important because we have to have this thing adopted by July 21st. It's kind of the dead end there for the Department of Natural Resources and FEMA. So there is kind of a timeline clicking through this for us. Then just a quick overview on kind of the outreach. And an understanding. The floodplain ordinance is actually a two-pronged experience. We have both the firm maps, so a whole new floodplain study has happened and some mapping changes have occurred. So we have all the new flood insurance rate maps out there, but then we also have a pre-reviewed kind of model ordinance from the DNR. So we had to deal with both the mapping component of this and then a pretty comprehensive ordinance that came alongside it. You can see here that the preliminary firm maps were out in April of 2024. Then we've got the open house that happened there in June of 2024. And then in October, we sent out letters to each property owner that either had a component of their new mapping that either added a piece of floodplain to their property or removed it. This was notified in, of course, our local paper as well, but pretty difficult to kind of read through their local notices. So we went and notified each of those property owners. So we sent a notice to 75 owners, 75 properties of new maps that were impacting their properties, 131 properties where some portion of their properties are being removed were being added, and 193 properties of boundaries that were being removed. So lots of folks were individually noticed, and I probably worked with, I think at last count it was like 161 residents. So I talked with them, we sent them personal maps and what the kind of the process was for that. So none of this should be a surprise for a lot of those individuals who were directly impacted. But then moving on, later, a week later, I guess in October, then the 90-day review process began. This is something that the DNR and FEMA does so that folks have an actual specific window of time to review their individual maps. And if they find an error, they had the opportunity to submit that with surveying and engineering details that said this is why our individual property was wrong. It's just part of the legal process that the DNR and FEMA does with everybody. So the 90 days ended there in January. Then a week or so later, we got that final letter of determination that says that, all the edits and corrections or individual requests through that 90-day process have been reviewed. And here's the final firm maps. And then here again, that last date, the effective, both the map and the ordinance have to be adopted by July 21st. So as I said, that the clock is ticking on this. The city has been working with the DNR and FEMA. I don't know, Wendy and I last talked, probably more than 5 years on this. So it's been a long time coming. Just moving past here quickly, we had the meeting notification and a public hearing at the Planning Commission. Scheduled. We had one individual there who talked, but I think he was there for another item, so wasn't specifically there. But again, because we'd reached out to almost 200 people, and I have individually talked to probably 161 of those folks, no one really has remaining questions. So I think we've done a pretty good job at outreach. Then just kind of on the second page here, if you're following along, this is on page 46, but the firm map updates, what are they doing? What are they trying to do? These updates actually include updated LiDAR data. So hopefully, I don't think they're perfect. Nothing in the world really is, but these flood risk maps are significantly better with the LiDAR data than they were in the 2000s when they last did them. So we're getting better improvement in the maps, and they're also actually in color, and they're easier to actually see. So I think there's been some huge improvements in the maps if any of you guys have seen them. But then of course there's the floodplain ordinance, and it's attached to this memo. It's quite a document. This is produced by the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. It's a model ordinance that they expect every city and county to pretty much adopt with just a couple of options. So we don't have a whole lot of say in this. And it's not significantly different than the current ordinance, but I just wanted to click through some of the ordinances, and then I had one quick section of this, and Brian's here tonight, so he can maybe help talk through this one issue. But as we kind of move through the definitions, it's just kind of the first section of this ordinance. There's a whole new spattering of acronyms. I don't think the DNR or FEMA could live without some of these acronyms, but they're all here. Then they added some kind of general text in this ordinance. And then they had some kind of non-general definitions. And the one that I really wanted to speak to tonight, which is on this third page, probably page 47 of your packet, is the concept of repetitive loss. And that's what I really wanted. It's an optional thing that we can have in this ordinance that the Planning Commission debated and decided with a vote of 3-1 that they want to leave this in. But this is kind of a traditional carrot and stick section of this ordinance, and it's going to require some thought from you guys too. And so I want you to think about it tonight and decide kind of what you would like to do. But repetitive loss, I think Brian said it actually best here at the end. Said it is an option that we can add to this ordinance or take it out. But if we include this is a provision that impacts the ability to get a flood insurance rider. If we keep repetitive loss is a definition saying that an additional insurance can be completed or gained by residents, but they can only get up to 25% of their building a market value if it's damaged only twice in a 10-year period, or then they have to completely update their building so that it meets all the provisions of this ordinance. So the carrot for repetitive loss is that they can have additional insurance because repetitive loss is in this current ordinance. The stick of it is if they have more than 2 claims equaling or exceeding 25% of the market value of the structure, they have to live with the entire ordinance. And that's significant. We've had, and then you can see here on this loss, claims, and insurance. So this is from Seal Strauss from the Department of Natural Resources. She said that there were 7 buildings within the city of Wabasha with a total of 21 claims. So about 3 claims on average in the last couple of years. So they would all be part of this repetitive loss. The average total claims of these properties was about $69,000, so about $23,000 per event. The city has 22 active insurance policies, and that average premium is about $1,200. So that's what. Yes,
A year.
a year. Yeah, that's per year. And so Brian, I guess, and he can speak to this too, but he, again, this is, so the carrot stick option just comes up to you guys as his email or his little 10 cents here in this memo says that this is optional. Are you sure that you guys want to approve this, include this provision? This impacts the ability to get flood insurance for this rider, increases the compensation for substantial damage. But if we don't include it, people don't get the rider. If we include it, people can't rebuild if they're over that 25% twice in 2 years. So we're torn as to whether or not we would want that. And because this is kind of that classic carrot stick program, trying to reduce the number of non-conforming buildings within the city, again, this is the one sticking point for this ordinance. The Planning Commission debated this quite a bit at the public hearing process and ultimately decided at a 3-1 vote that they thought that the program, that this rider, the repetitive loss should be kept in the ordinance, again, allowing people to be able to get the insurance. But again, the stick for that is more than twice in 10 years, those guys have to deal with this ordinance. Brian, do you have any other comments or thoughts you want to add to this?
No, I think you described it pretty well and explained in the memo pretty well what the impact is.
Yeah, so I mean, then the rest of this ordinance will kind of, as we comb through is just typical updates that the DNR has requested, like I said, of almost every city and county in the state. So nothing else would really be earth-shatteringly different from what we're currently producing from the floodplain ordinance. But the repetitive loss is something we wanted you guys to be informed about and debate and decide how you would like to deal with it.
So I reached out to a local insurance agent just to hear what's really happening for people and, explain that we're in this position of, if we don't put this language in, people can't get the rider. And he was quick to point out that, we don't get to decide where someone gets the rider. Their insurance company, their insurance market is who's gonna decide that. And a lot of insurance companies are not taking on new customers within the flood insurance space, or they're providing these riders at a cost that's prohibitive to people. So I thought that is healthy for us to, it's not like we bless them and they get to get the rider because we said so. It's just that it's all permitting, the language permits them to go try to get a rider. The other piece is that, these are probably these, I guess, what did RL stand for, Christy? It says 7 RL buildings with total repetitive loss. Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So these are, it's like we know which houses these are. And they're not houses that appear to be in a position to just build into conformity if they have substantial loss. So that would be us making that decision for them, whereas the rider, we're just permitting them to go into the open market and try to get that product, but we're not getting it for them.
Right. And I think another component of this, Mayor, is that what do we do if the 7 folks can't rebuild?
Right.
That
Right
leaves us, do we want to buy or help or
3 or
condemn
4
or?
It's
3
not
or 4
cost
are
feasible to,
on my street, and those houses have changed hands, but they have always been occupied. They have never been blighted or, abandoned by the owner because of the inability to manage flood, to my knowledge. They're changing hands, but it's oftentimes new young owners. Move on to a different house, and then it's another set of new young owners, so I don't really wanna hold people's hands when they are in a position of loss to not be able to build back whatever they need to do to occupy their home. It's the idea that somebody would just abandon the property or allow it to blight would be worse to me. And then we have that to contend with, so that's my 2 cents, just because it's definitely a neighborhood issue for me. And every year I think, oh, I wonder what's gonna happen here, and they seem to figure it out, and the houses change hands, and
Christy, one more clarifying question. If they're unable or choose not to get the rider, then they don't come under those restrictions that they can't rebuild. Is that correct?
no,
No.
because we've already, they have to
No.
help fully if they have a repetitive loss.
yeah, you control their ability to rebuild or not, whether you include
Agree
this
to this.
provision in your ordinance or not. If you don't include the provision, they can receive coverage and they can get compensated and rebuild as is. If you
Yeah.
include
If we had a
the,
real carrot, if we had a separate large carrot that allowed people to do that and come into conformity, that would be different.
say that
But
again,
right now, what we do is help them with FEMA, right?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't hear the question.
Right now, our ability to assist those homeowners is that Riley walks through the FEMA process and tries to see if
There's a
they,
buyout thing.
yeah, which isn't, that's not what people need, they need their home.
Right.
Tim, so what we see before us is what the planning commission said was the best case. The voted majority vote, okay?
And I read those minutes, I just think about it locally, like I'm just thinking about what I actually see, and I wanted to hear, like, what are the insurance agents actually seeing, is like, yeah, people aren't getting that right, or either they're not able to get it, or they're not able to afford it, so don't think of yourself as being, granting that opportunity to people, because they have to find it in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think correct me, Jim, I think we just felt that it allow them to get additional if they can get it, right? I mean, we're just adding that extra piece. Like you said, not everybody could get it, nor may not ever get it, but it at least allows them for additional coverage if they can. But I think it also goes onto the homeowner about claiming some of these stuff too. So do they claim every single flood and even if it didn't, warrant it?
What are the deductibles on these policies?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a $10,000 deductible, they're not gonna claim it, they're just gonna pay it.
That's right, so hopefully,
And that, that now Tom tons of Wabashas, I mean, people have all their stuff off the ground, they know they've got to clean stuff out, they know they might do some remediation on their own, but they're not gonna carry a rider for it.
Right. I talked with Riley about this, who's the kind of the emergency contact for the last 2 years of floods, and he said overwhelmingly that most of these homeowners are just repairing it and not declaring a flood. But
Right.
yeah. So repetitive loss if we leave it in, that means that people can potentially get the rider, but that also means after two claims, they have to live with the ordinance. If we remove repetitive loss, they can still get flood insurance, just not this additional rider. And this is an option, so you guys can choose what you want to do with the ordinance.
Yeah, I can see in a community, like a newly built community where there's, sort of a levee failure that is a risk to homeowners, and they are likely to be customers who can get a rider, can afford a rider. It's just, I was just thinking that, every time it floods, we know who's being affected, and it's not new homes.
I just think I guess I had understood originally that they only applied if they got the rider, so if that's not the case, I think we're gonna have a hard time telling someone you can't rebuild your property.
Well, that's that 25% thing, number two, that makes a difference. If you have $15,000 worth of damage, it doesn't matter, and I can't imagine these houses that are repetitively used to having the repair damage are spending 15, 20 grand all
Every
the
single
time,
time, no.
you know?
I
That's
think a lot of the
25%
city,
value, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
I didn't look at the value on those down on East Main, but
I think the
Brian, what-
cities, I was going to say, I think the cities that are pursuing this provision in an ordinance, there are some cities whose goal is to completely eliminate the potential for residential or commercial properties to be flooded, and they have the ability to do that either through building flood protection systems or by buying out properties. If that was the city's goal, this is a tool to help accomplish that by eventually, forcing some of those homes that are repetitively flooded to eventually get relocated out of the floodplain. It doesn't seem to me that that's the city's goal here, because that's not feasible for you to do. If that was your goal, you'd have a heck of a lot of properties gone in the city, because we can't build flood protection systems to protect them.
anybody care to direct staff either way? I'd like to not see it in there. But any other feedback?
We had a similar, kind of thing come up on this that one time where that
I can't,
fellow was gonna entertain a buyout,
Yep.
and ultimately, I think the consensus was we don't wanna hamstring properties and not be able to do anything with them for, was it like 20 or 50 years, so. I guess in that respect, I'd support taking it out as well, just based on your explanation.
and am I thinking of am I missing another neighborhood that would be different than that? Yeah,
No.
it's the older homes that are low lying.
Yep.
Yeah. So you don't need action for us, you need guidance, is that right?
Right. I would love, just because we have to have this darn thing done by July 21st, and that's why we're having a discussion at the first reading. I'd love to have you give us an action to work with the DNR to remove it, so that by next reading, we can have it completely ready for you.
Okay, so that maybe does require a motion.
I would still like it in.
You'd like to see it in, okay?
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes, if we can get somebody to make a motion. Dean or Jean, any comments before we entertain a motion either way?
No, I'm fine, and I'll make that motion.
And is your motion to include or remove the repetitive loss?
Remove.
Okay, we have a motion to remove, do we have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call for a roll vote.
Moyer,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yeah.
Sella,
No.
Friedmeyer,
No.
Woodley. Yes. Walrick.
No.
Durant,
Yes, and I've lost train of thought. No.
It's, 4-3, carries, motion carries.
Here's, okay. All right. No disrespect to planning, I'm just, it's like, I think Brian bringing it up is a good point. If this had been anyway a part of our housing study, like, oh, we really need to see that improved down there, but it's literally never come up, we just choose not to get our problem when somebody comes to us.
And Brian and Chrissy, just to let you know, I think I'm good with the rest of the agenda. Brian, I'll definitely need you online tomorrow, but I'm just gonna give them a broad brushstroke with the financing for barge terminal, but I don't need you for that part, so thank you for coming.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you both. Oh, sale of the Milligan Avenue parcel.
Yeah, so, this is tied to one of the, build grants that we have that the port is managing, but the city owns the Milligan Avenue parcel. I think we originally listed this for 30,000, they made an offer of 25,000. Due to the fact that, it is gonna need, like some sort of grinder sewer pump, because there is not gravity available there. So that was kind of an additional cost. And, staff is in favor of it because we've had it on the market for quite some time, and we've had one person that wanted it for $0, one person that wanted to move, a trailer home on the property, so this is the first person that's gonna build. I talked to Mike today and, because again, they can take advantage of a program that allows the sale price to be affordable for a new construction home. The good news is he has a potential buyer that's very interested, that already works in the city, but lives outside of the city and would like to move their family to the city, which is a lot of what our housing study talked about, is we believe there's a lot of people that, you know, this person's a Wabasha County employee, so it's great, he already has a buyer. And I think we go for it, we had a discussion, 8,000 needs to be paid back to the utilities, and we had another discussion at our ad hoc. That perhaps the balance of the sale could go into the CIP to offset some of the requests that we have in front of us, so. I think we have to also pay Port back for maybe a little bit of survey work that Johnson Schofield did. So I guess there's probably gonna be 15,000 we could put back into the CIP then. So I'm looking for a motion to approve it, and with the language that Mike Flaherty prepared for us, cause it has to be, you know, quote, our ability to sell property. And would just add, and it has to be, no, okay, can be majority vote. We're gonna just quit claim deed it, that gives us the least, least legal things. I'm sorry, it wasn't attached, I said, don't worry about attaching it, but Mike has reviewed it. And I would just request that we direct staff to pay what is owed to utilities, what is owed to the port, and the balance going to the CIP.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second, that's exciting, any further discussion? Roll call.
Freemeyer,
Yes.
Sella,
Yes.
Woodley,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Jensen,
Dudson?
Yes, sorry, my mic wasn't working. Yes.
Yes. See, wow, checking some boxes on the housing plans, okay. The AED device for the athletic field, Tony or Caroline, I'm not speaking.
That's the way job to that.
Yeah, sure, you'll get an enthusiastic report.
This is, I'm basically, our policy is if a council member would like to see something happen, it still has to get approval to direct staff to work on projects from the whole council, so that's why I made Jeff bring this to the whole council, I guess.
We talked about it for them, yeah.
Yes. One thing is that's new is I thought I would have to go about applying for grants. And today Clearway Solar reached out and they said, we'd like to either contribute, and I guess you guys could provide some guidance on this. 10,000 towards the athletic field, 10,000 towards the fire department building, or a split. And since, as far as I can tell, the fire department building is complete and we have this need that Jeff brought up, I thought we could, we have to do like a check ceremony. Clearway Solar operates solar, and they just reached out that they want a check ceremony and show that they're giving back to their community. So I thought we,
City pays clear.
yeah, we're their customer too. So I told Jeff we needed some money, and then somebody emailed me today,
That's
so
awesome.
can you explain why we should spend time on this project?
Yes, I will.
Okay,
I would like to see an AED available for the outdoor athletic field facilities such as the tennis and pickleball courts, the baseball field, and the skate park. The AED at the pool is only available 3 months a year during pool hours, and the AED in City Hall is only accessible during operating hours. The general public likely does not even know these are available. I think all our EMS people here know that AEDs save lives, especially when used with CPR. Just last year in Eau Claire, pickleball courts, where they do have an AED device, a player went down with a cardiac arrest, and quick use of the AED on site saved his life. This year at the Red Wing YMCA, a pickleball player went down with a cardiac arrest. Once again, the use of the on-site AED saved his life. And I think we've all heard of kids getting hit in the chest by a baseball and having a cardiac event, and parents or grandparents watching the games having heart attacks. Minutes count on survival rates, and an on-site AED increases survival rates significantly. I did talk to Dr. Spano at St. Elizabeth's, and he agreed that this would be a good idea. Just looking at, I went to aedsuperstore.com.
Yep.
And there's all sorts of them. Cost for an outdoor cabinet with alarm and a strobe light, AED and signs would be less than $5,000. The typical AED storage temperature range is 32 degrees Fahrenheit to 122 F. So I think a good location would be on the wall between the restrooms at the warming house. And I would suggest a seasonal installation, April through November maybe, unless someone decides a more expensive outdoor temperature controlled cabinet is needed. I mean, the Eau Claire pickleball courts, their AED is just there seasonally. A typical AED battery life is normally 10 years, and the AEDs just need to be registered with the state with location info and some other info just on it. And I guess that's all I have to really say about advocating for it, that that is the money, where we get the money, if we can get the money for it. If they're okay to buy something like that.
yeah, I think it's just gonna be a donation towards the athletic field, but
I would think they'd be very happy with that,
yeah,
their name behind that.
yeah.
This isn't important right now, but the warming house is always open. Could it go inside the warming house?
You want it in a spot where you can see it publicly?
Oh, I didn't know that was here, good to know.
Yeah, so you just need to, you need to be able, and
So,
the historic white cabinet, red writing. Some of the cabinets have, I think this one has an audible and a
Yeah.
light. Some of them actually, when you open the door, it'll ring dispatch. So that may be something that we wanna think about, maybe not. I don't know if it's that much more money, if it matters. Everyone's got cell phones now, so someone's getting an AED out there, probably calling 911 too. But yeah, I'm all in on this. This is the right thing to do. I would say we need to consider interoperability, so whatever kind of equipment Ryan is using, we should make sure that this equipment is compatible. You
and
can unplug the pads, plug them into his
we
machine.
found a pretty reasonable cost that came with the heat and kept it cool and warm during the winters. But would, but I don't know, yeah, their electrical costs would be a concern, I have additional electrical. Ryan, do you think, you had thought having it heated and cooled is the best route? What are your thoughts on, I guess, relying on staff to move it during the seasons?
I think it's ultimately up to you guys. The one that we looked at was like,
$10,000.
well, that's, yes, that one is, but the one that Carolina.
AEG Superstore was $700
$700.
plus the electric to install it, yeah.
The plus side for the electric is we already have electric in the building, so we're not like having to run electric from somewhere else. So I'm not an electrician, but I can't imagine it's going to be a huge cost just to tap in and put electric to that box, since we already have electric in the building. The one thing, and I guess it's ultimately up to you guys, when I talked to Caroline about it, I thought it would be better on the concession side. Because
Visible there.
there's not as much sun that could potentially hit it.
There's no sun underneath where the restroom is.
Right.
That's the east side, there's nothing there.
So that's fine. And then we looked at the AED that would be compatible with ours. Our new monitors and, it looks cheaper on AED Superstore, but that's just for the AED, doesn't come with batteries. So you're adding on everything else, and so the price that I can get the AED for is cheaper than what we would be able to get it for on AED Superstore.
Is it fully automated?
Yes,
Okay, good.
so.
Seven.
Tony, do you have any comments
They
on
make them just like that, right?
electricity in the building? I know you had looked into it. Or,
Well, I think that side by the bathrooms, there's room, we got the drinking fountain, the display, I think there's room, we can get electrical behind the furnace. We have cameras on it, I think it'd be probably a good spot, yeah, the concession side, the door goes the whole way, so ain't really much room over there, but. Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know about year round, though, is that what you're talking?
I wouldn't see if we need, but I don't think it needs to be up
She's
around.
right.
I don't think.
I mean, the facility is really used much more seasonally than.
Yeah.
If we had like a ton of a hockey association or something. It
Might be different, but we
Yeah.
don't.
I always, like, for usage up there, cause I, watch the bathrooms and different stuff like that, and a couple of things get, messed with, but. There's maybe up to 4 or 5 people skating at a time, that's not teams or anything like that. So if it cuts costs down a little bit.
And
I guess it would just be the electric
extended
cost
life expectancy.
to keep it warm. But I would be in favor of they had one cabinet that's cooling only. I think we should get one with a cooling so that it stays the correct temperature in the summer, because it's under the shade doesn't mean it.
Well, it's not gonna get to 122 degrees
That's true.
in the shade.
Okay.
That's work that way.
It's true. Alright,
There's one in Millville, and it's on the side of the Legion, and I was looking at it one day, and so I'm visiting a Veterans Memorial, and I was on the side of the building, and then I asked about it, cause you were quizzing me about it a little bit. So somebody opens the door and pulls it out, there's like 3 or 5 people get a text, and then it calls dispatch, and the lights flash, and so if somebody was to steal it, at least.
Yeah, they're gonna get caught.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll make a motion.
motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve by Tim, second by John. Any further discussion? Second, that's it, good addition. All right, we'll call for a roll.
So,
Yes.
Friedmeyer,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Jensen. Jensen.
Jensen.
Yes.
Woodley. Yeah. Waller.
Yes.
Duran.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Okay, now this next one I brought to staff's attention, I thought maybe we had a policy, on the same day, the LMC, you maybe saw it. Was encouraging cities to review their public comment policy rules of decorum. Cities are hearing more and more from angry citizens about things that are city related, uncity related, but we have to know how to handle someone if they become. Out of decorum, so we don't have a policy, so this was a nice short one. Can't remember where you got some of this from, that staff was able to find. I like absolutely everything about it, especially that it actually can be up on the screen when we have public comment. The only one that I want, and it certainly welcome any debate on this, but the one that I specifically want to know is, do we think that public commenters not being able to yield their 2 minutes to another individual? We just had somebody do that recently, they kind of represented their neighbor.
We can't do that.
Yeah. So I know that some people are afraid to stand up, but if we have somebody taking on everyone's comments, we don't know whose comments they represent. So I'm not saying it.
I like it.
Okay, yeah. I think we're a pretty welcoming crew, and we try to feel as easy as possible to communicate with us, so I don't think that's too difficult. Anybody have any thoughts on any of the other items, or want to see anything
I have
else there?
one.
Yeah, go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, I don't like the 2 minutes. I went on the internet this week and I went to numerous cities, and most of those I did not find that 2 minute. They were all 3 minutes.
Three, okay. One of the policies we looked at was five. Five gets to be a lot if there's a lot of people here, but three is fine with me. I will tell you, testifying, and thank you, because I was thinking about that too. Testifying for 3 minutes or maybe 2 minutes is a very big difference. I used AI for the first time in a professional way, taking my testimony from the last time. I was like gasping to get through it, and that was 3 minutes, and I got it down to like 2:23. So it's hard to make substantive comment in 2 minutes, even when you have written remarks. So yeah, that's fine. 3 minutes.
And then I also had the rules, stating your name and address. If we're gonna do this, I really want that to be enforced. Because in the past, we've had people stand up in the audience. I don't know
Yeah.
who they are, I don't know where they live, and
Right.
it
So
needs to
one
be
of the
reasonable.
reasons became a priority for me to see whether we even had rules written was that the city of Carter alerted the mayor's forum, and maybe I don't know if there's a similar LMC forum for council members, but there's something called Zoom bombing, and it's increasingly happening to city councils where somebody gets on and is either obscene or has an agenda that has nothing to do with the city, and they have a tirade or a political tirade. And oftentimes, of course, they're not, and probably uniformly, they're not residents of the city that they're Zoom bombing. So getting somebody to chat their actual address or state their actual address, I think we do need to enforce it better. And then you pick on me if I don't do it, Dean, because now that we have these rules, I know that we want them.
And I got a comment on that. Zoom bombing, as you mentioned, is a big problem. Now Microsoft Meets, I see a lot of cities moving over to that because it's more secure. So that's something we should think of too.
Sure. The other thing that Carver decided is they're gonna allow for remote participation of their staff and committee members, but they're not actually allowing the public to participate in Zoom, at least for a period of time while they figure this out. And we started that in COVID and it's not used that much.
Well, the only way you get around it is you gotta make them be here,
Yeah,
and you see them, cause we had that time when they let loose on him.
yeah, during COVID.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not good.
Yeah. So that's also available to us, obviously, as an option, is that we don't have remote participation for the public. And so,
My only comment, the only one, I love it. Is about people outside of city residents comment. Because, we had the frac sand thing and we had comments from people from Alma, and how can we, not to say that they shouldn't have comment, but sometimes that's a little inappropriate, let me put it that way.
yeah, and then, that I was reading into a little bit too, something, if the public comment starts to take over the meeting, the chair, president, or mayor can recess the meeting. There are other legal ways.
Oh, yeah.
I think, with regards to frac or something that's really controversial, it was a city issue. I think the part that people are realizing now is people are just ranting politically and they just want to have a place for speech and they think it's protected in this forum. And it's not. The public comment is as it pertains to this body. So that was a little trickier, but.
Well, enforcement of the time limit is a big thing.
Yes, it is. And that, when you get outside, non-residents, it's gotta become really strict, because. Yeah, residents deserve.
So my only comment to change would be the last bullet, the board chair, I would say mayor or board chair, because technically the council's got it.
Yeah, we copied this from somewhere that had.
That would be my only comment, the 2 to 3 minutes. Can't go either way, I'm not going with 5, I was like,
5 is long. 3 is reasonable to me. 2 is really hard.
I'll make a motion to approve it with the 3 minutes and adding of the mayor and last bullet.
We go first from Tim, we have a second from John. Any further comment? Hearing none, we'll call.
Oh, I got one question.
Yeah.
The Zoom thing, that's fine, cause not every board has Zoom, so do we need to mention that or not? Do you know what I mean, like planning and code doesn't want Zoom.
Right.
Or rarely.
Does it say more like regardless of in person or? Oh yeah, those who join by.
I would just say it via Zoom if available.
If available, there you go. Those who join via Zoom if available.
Yeah, okay,
Great.
cause I doubt utilities have Zoom.
Or join remotely to.
So you might have said.
Remotely in case we choose another tool.
Okay. Yeah.
Or if we run a Teams meeting or something.
Yes.
Okay, with those changes, we have a motion. Does your second stand?
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a roll vote.
Lauren, yes.
Woodley,
Yeah.
so,
Yes.
Freemeyer,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Duran.
Yes. Okay, and now let's get a trail update, trail connection update. We had our most recent meeting last week with the joint powers. Carolyn, did you wanna? I just, we just held a spot.
Yeah, just for you to.
Yeah, so just to keep this body informed, the exchange of the federal funds with Goodhue County is looking promising. But it takes a long time. But what was the restriction that they would not have to receive? There's some consternation from MnDOT planning level staff. We've had district support for this, but at the level of their planning staff, there's some kind of, I think, sort of, desire to really make clear that the money that Goodhue received is gonna be used on something that was not a transportation initiative, whereas our plan was a transportation initiative. So Dietrich doesn't seem terribly concerned. It passed in whatever body he's MnDOT planning staff were a part of, but he's gotta kind of continue to work with MnDOT staff. Then, we thought everybody had signed on to the joint powers, but actually Greenfield Township has not yet. And that's important because the right of way and the trail's gonna be through Greenfield Township, so, who wasn't there? Mark Levine wasn't there, but, Skip was gonna reach back to him, as was Sue, just to kind of keep him updated, because the spirit of this is, you know, we all have to remain optimistic that it's gonna work out the way that we want it to work out, and I think that the side-by-side community really has no real particular interest in this project unless it includes side-by-sides, but we feel there's a path forward.
If we exchange the funds.
The funds,
Yeah.
because that wouldn't hold those same
The
restrictions.
kind of funds we got would allow snowmobilers, but would not allow ATVs to use it.
The statement.
And the only reason we got Kellogg and Greenfield Township interested is that ATVs could use the bridge. And so unfortunately, if this doesn't go through and we take funding that doesn't allow it, they're threatening to kind of pull out of the partnership and the project, so.
But I think all parties understand that the multi-use is kind of, that's built into the project. It's not a bike trail that hopefully we can also have multi-use. It's envisioned as multi-use. That was the spirit of the way that it is, you know.
So the reason we wanted to give you a warning is something that's important for the county is we have a joint shared agreement about jointly sharing the burden of maintaining it. So I think what makes sense to me is we just share it evenly, and if there's costs, all communities share in the cost of whatever, and I think Kellogg and Greenfield and Tony, as long as he's here, Tony's not gonna be here forever. Are willing to lend labor, you know, but I think they need something in writing in case the free volunteer labor doesn't happen, there's something in writing that we all share in the cost to maintain it equally, so.
Even though there's enthusiasm, like the Snowmobile Club, that's not sufficient for the county to wanna see, that they've
Yeah.
had. In fact, they're getting rid of their trail commitment in Plainview, so.
Yeah.
And that was how the rails trail.
We just wanted to let you know there'll be a shared maintenance agreement coming forward, and we won't be motioning anything, and we're all sharing it, it's not just the city or just the county, so. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, we hope to hear maybe within a month on some of the review that Dietrich's waiting for.
And if it gets approved, Dietrich said we could be bidding it this year and maybe starting construction this fall, but yeah.
Wonderful negotiations, yep. All right, now we'll talk about the process for barge terminal financing.
No, a heads up, the city is gonna have to back the loan for the barge terminal, so I looked at the amortization schedule, it's about $170,000 a year that the port would be taking on in debt that they'll be discussing. And it's gonna involve a public hearing, authorization, posting of an ordinance. So just because there's gonna be a lot of probably publishing of it, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. So the funds from the barge terminal will pay, so there's no tax levy, but if for some reason something goes wrong, the taxes really back this up. Currently, we levy $62,000 a year for the port, so theoretically, but Mike has come up with a conservative plan. So that even if it takes a couple of years for the barge terminal to be profitable, there would be funds available. So that's why the borrowing is a little more than I anticipated, because he's thinking, well, in case there's not revenue or it doesn't come in soon, he's built some things. And of course, the cost came in higher, as well, so.
Any questions on that? Great, thanks for that update. It's nice just to have that summary sometimes in a bullet list. Okay, we have resolution to adopt a nice set of donations. I asked Jeff if he would do that, since he sits on parks, and there's a very nice donation in that department.
All right, for the library, $500 from John and Sue Hemp, $300 from Carolyn Bill Dunn, $500 from Mary Colliard, and $1,500 from Jim Considine. That's for the library. Fireworks, Greenfield Township donated $250,000. Yeah, $250.
You're set for life.
The athletic field, $5,000 from Wabasha Dentistry. Veterans Park for $7,149.85 by Jim and Tram Matthias for a life-size Navy soldier for Tony and me. Fire in memory of Joe Dick, $20 from Dan and Linda Benner. And the police were donated a microchip scanner for the dog pound by Bubbles and Biscuits.
Is that a groomer locally? Is that yours? That's so cool. Thank you, Jess. Well, that's a nice set of donations. We have a motion to approve.
I move. Second.
Very good. And call for a roll.
Johnson,
Yes.
Moyer,
Yes.
Woodley. Yeah. Waller,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Goodmeyer,
Yes.
Durant.
Yes. Now I know the name of this is like bird people too. All right, and then we have a couple other items here. We have community events coming up, because it's gonna be Public Works and EMS week. Monday, May 18th is Touch a Truck event, and the spring carnival is 5 to 7 at Wabasha Hill School. That's really fun. Thursday, May 21st, are tours of the wastewater treatment plant at 1 and 6:30. And then election information is at the following link. Any other announcements?
Yeah, just if you could please support us in the behind the scene look of the wastewater treatment plant tour. It's free and open to the public, and we've decided not to serve donuts. Pretty mixing up things, but I hope you join us. I'll send out a link there.
No respect.
So we did it 3 years ago. We thought, let's see if anyone comes again. So we're gonna try to just do it once every 3 years.
It is good.
Yeah.
The paper came last night.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, very good. And then you should have, if you're on council, you should have received, although I know this kind of stuff can get a little bit murky when it's not a local planning entity, but the US Postal Service intended for council to be invited to the stamp ceremony. That's the 13th, is that right?
That was the 13th or 11th? No, right, sorry.
I'll follow up with staff and make sure that goes out to everybody. There, I'll be, I'm seeing, but I haven't seen the program yet. 14th, okay.
And it's, what is the stamps ceremony again?
So there's an Eagle stamp dedication, and the illustrator is, and I don't know his first name, Sibley, I'm the Sibley Bird guy, so he's very famous. So he was the illustrator. They are very beautiful, and it's pretty big deal to have a stamp designation right here in our hometown. So there may be federal presence. They won't tell me anything about that. And I haven't seen the lineup of other guests. I just said I would help with the program. So it's really lovely to see people there. Otherwise, we can entertain a motion to adjourn if there aren't any announcements.
I have one question real quick.
Dean, go ahead.
Are we having a citywide cleanup this year?
Oh, yes, it's in there.
It's on the
I
16th,
think it was in the paper.
May 16th, Dean.
Should be getting
Alright.
advertised this.
It's on the water bill.
It's on the water bill, that's right. So.
Yep,
Very
27th. should
good.
be added.
I make motion to adjourn.
Okay, we got a motion from Tim. Can I get a second from you, Dean?
I'll put that on.
Second.
Second.
Wait a second. All right, very good. We'll roll call and say goodnight.
Goodmeyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Woodley. Yeah. Waller,
Yes.
Moyer,
No.
Johnson.
Alright, so.
Dean, did you want to adjourn?
It's already.
No.
Yes.
I'm staying on.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a good night.